given us a hint from your place of living in Berlin why you felt it was important to defend capitalism in your latest book, Rainer. But perhaps you could run through and explain to us, because you go through a series of 10 narratives to discuss just how capitalism is beneficial.
Yes, first of all, why did I write the book? Because I think capitalism is under attack everywhere, almost everywhere in the world today. Let's start with Latin America. You see, even in Chile, what was the most capitalist and successful country in Latin America, even they voted for a socialist. And now most of the countries in Latin America are governed by socialists, not to speak about Venezuela, also in Brazil. So this is Latin America. And in the United States, if you look at this index of economic freedom, it's published every year by the Heritage Foundation in the United States. This last year, the United States had the worst ranking since they started their index of economic freedom. Today, there are even 16 European countries, according to that index, that are more economically free, more capitalist at the United States. So you have, especially with this Joe Biden now, more and more government intervention in the economy. If you look to Europe, I can speak about Germany. It's a total disaster what happens right here. First, the government restructured our energy policy to a kind of planned economy. First, they phased out nuclear power plants, what I think it's a crazy idea. If you are concerned about climate change, then they started to phase out coal power plants. They forbid fracking. Now they import LNG fracking gas from the United States, and they import dirty electricity from other countries based by coal power plants. And we have the highest electricity prices in Germany all over the world. The result is that some companies from Germany, that they go now to other countries. Take, for example, BASF, what is the biggest chemical company in the world. With a part of their business, they go to China now. Others go to the United States. This is not only happening in Germany, it's happening all over Europe. Some month ago, they forbid combustion engines from 2035 all over Europe, so that it will be not longer allowed to buy or produce combustion engines in Germany. I think this is a big mistake, because this is important to understand. The big difference between capitalism and planned economy is, in capitalism, entrepreneurs decide what to produce, how much to produce. In the end, of course, it's the consumer's choice, because consumers every day, they make that decision who's rich and who's not. Every time you use Google, you make Larry Page and Sergey Brin rich. Every time you use Amazon, you make Jeff Bezos rich. And if you buy a Tesla, you make Elon Musk rich. This is capitalism for me. It's pure democracy in the economy, because consumers decide. In a planned economy, politicians and government officials decide what is produced. And this is exactly what happens now in the United States and what happens now in Europe. And if you look in Asia, it's a very important development. China had an amazing economic development. Of course, everyone knows this over the last decades. Amazing. In the end of the 50s, 45 million people in China died as a result of the biggest socialist experiment in history. This was Mao Zedong's so-called Great Leap Forward. And even 1981, 88% of people in China lived in extreme poverty. 88%. Today, it's less than 1%. Why did this happen? Because Deng Xiaoping, in the beginning of the 80s, he introduced private property and implemented more pro-market reforms. But the problem now in China is that since a couple of years, they go back in the wrong direction, less market, more state. So you can see it everywhere in the world. And this is exactly the reason why first I wrote this book and published this book in Defence of Capitalism, because there are not many people who defend capitalism, especially not with the intellectuals. Most of the intellectuals, they are anti-capitalist. And so this is the reason why I wrote this book.